This is the Nancy Stevens Lifestyle Show here on the New Horizon Radio.
Welcome to the Nancy Stevens Lifestyle Show here on the New Horizon, and delighted to be back. Another packed show as always. A few random facts about me. I've lived in Milton Keynes for 27 years, and actually I am very partial to a roundabout. Much maligned, but they do the job. My day job is I'm a personal stylist, and I'm the eldest of 5 children. Different marriages are, however, because it wasn't like the Waltons, and a bit of a colour obsessive. And today I'm wearing purple, so I hope you're liking my purple paisley. On today's show, it's very busy. Talking about kitty yoga, a review of Disney Snow White at Cineworld, the #1 show on Netflix, that's Adolescence, which has got everyone talking, and working with Waterstones. And I've got Lizzie Damola Blackburn, who is the author of the book that I'm talking about, The Rewrite, as my guest as well. So super excited about that. And I'm going to talk about Snow White, Disney Snow White, which is at Cineworld, Milton Keynes. This film has been mired in controversy, and it's been accused of being way too woke. Firstly, instead of using dwarves, Disney have taken upon themselves to use CGI creatures. I think they call them magical creatures or something. So the dwarf actors, of which there are many, are up in arms about this, quite rightly so, saying this is the one job we could have done and you've taken this away from us. You know, what's that about? You know, the desire to not offend has really sort of gone back in Disney's face massively. The stars of the show have publicly, they're just not getting on, and it's and I'll sort of talk about that in a minute, because when you look in contrast to what the press junket and the press tour for Wicked was like, with sort of Ariana and Cynthia just involved in this complete love fest where they were just so respectful of each other, crying, holding hands, but just really, just obviously loving and adoring each other. This is not the case at all. So Rachel Zegler, who plays Snow White, has been very critical of the original Snow White, and just saying, you know, we're women. We don't need a prince to, kiss us and live happily ever after. But it's a swimming fairy tale, for goodness sake. Just calm down. Suspend belief. It's meant to be happy ever after. We know real life's not like that, but it's Disney, for goodness sake. So she's been very public about that, and I think, why are you biting the hand that feeds you? I just don't get that. And then also Gal Gadot, who plays the Wicked Queen, she's a former Miss Israeli, and I didn't find her acting amazing. I mean, she's absolutely stunning, and she's a beautiful evil queen, but I didn't find her. And I know, obviously, it's a difficult role to play, but I found it quite uncomfortable to watch her. But I think what is, as I say, is really sort of not worked really well is that these two stars, so Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot, have very different political views. And now that shouldn't matter. But the problem is, Rachel Zegler is pro-Palestinian, and that's not a problem in itself, but she is against the occupied, the whole occupation of Gaza. And Gal Gadot is an Israeli citizen. She's served in the Israeli Defense Force, and she obviously is on opposing sides of the political fence. They are never going to agree on this. So I'm not quite sure what Disney were thinking when they cast these two women who, as I say, have such different political views, because that was never going to be comfortable. And it really does show, as I say, on the press tour, they are just not comfortable with each other, barely looking at each other. So, and kind of when you know that, when you go and see a film, you think, it does put a little bit of a bias on it, I must say. Having said that, I did try and go in with, an open mind and try to sort of be objective. And I did actually quite enjoy the film. It has been panned by the critics. It isn't doing well at the box office, but it's pure Disney with a plethora of gorgeous, cute, fluffy little animals and beautiful scenery, and the sort of the age-old message of good triumphing over evil. Zegler makes for a wonderful Snow White. She has a beautiful, pure voice, and she's so much better in this than she was in the god-awful West Side Story, which was Steven Spielberg took it upon himself to do a remake a few years ago. Honestly, it's a West Side Story is a classic. Leave it alone. It was uncomfortable. I really, really didn't enjoy that. But she's got a great voice. So yeah, it's not a bad film. It's cute. It's Disney, as I say, full of lovely, fluffy animals. The scenery's lovely. Costumes are quite good. The makeup's amazing. Would I sort of recommend going and see it? It's okay if you like Disney. And, you like a fairy tale, it's great. Cinderella, it ain't. Wicked, it ain't. You're not going to get that kind of, that wow. And you think about sort of Cinderella, how amazing it was. The budget was a lot less, but the budget for this one is a lot more, but it doesn't feel like that. This feels a little bit sort of low budget. It's a cute film. I wouldn't recommend going 4DX. The experience, I have to say, I've never done it before. I felt like I was on some sort of roller coaster. I wasn't a fan of the sort of the cold air just blasting down my neck. I really, I think if you're a young person and you like to sort of feel like you want to be want an interactive experience, personally, it wasn't for me. But yeah, as I say, it's Disney Snow White at Cineworld. I'm going to talk about an experience that I had a couple of weeks ago in London, which was really good fun. What do you buy for your mum whose birthday is straight after Christmas? My boys, bless them, have this conundrum every single Christmas and birthday. But they bought me a kitty yoga experience. What do you think that is? Well, it literally is what it says on the tin. It's connecting mindfulness and movement with kitten therapy and play. And my youngest son, Benji, and I went to London a couple of weeks ago, and we went to the studios in Old Street, and we just kind of gingerly went into the room, and the kittens were there, and they were so... Oh my God, they're the cutest things I've ever seen. So they're only 9 weeks old. So this was kind of their first outing. And the premise of kitty yoga is obviously that it's just a lovely thing to do, but it also socializes them. So they're ready to go to their new homes, or, if they are going to be meeting prospective parents, that they're going to feel more comfortable around humans. And they were very, very comfortable. There was no worry about that at all. But honestly, so cute. These little Bengal kittens. Oh my God. So I was just thinking of my honey cat at home, she's definitely got Bengal in her. She's got those lovely stripes. Really, really pretty. The yoga, I have to say, was rudimentary. I'm a bit of a yogi, and we didn't even go into a downward dog. So that was a little bit disappointing, but it was okay. To be honest with you, everyone was there for the cats. They really were. The yoga was almost incidental. So there is a separate one, which is cat therapy, which I would really like to go to. But it was really good fun. But it was very relaxing. There's something very calming about having animals in the room. But what was quite funny was, when I was in Shavasana, which is the end bit of yoga, when you're in relaxation mode, the cats had crawled onto me, and one was sort of nestled between my knees, and the other one was lying, well, I'll leave it to your imagination, but let's just say Mrs. Slocum, and a scene from Are You Being Served? Honestly, everybody, it was kind of the elephant in the room, no pun intended. It was just, so nobody knew what to say, but we were all kind of chuckling. It was very, very funny. And I didn't want to move because the cats were really comfortable, and they're clearly using me as a cushion. But it was, joking aside, it was a really, really wonderful session. And I did sort of ask the yoga teacher afterwards. I said, what happens to the cats afterwards? And they are from a breeder, and the money that is raised at Kitty Yoga actually goes to a charity. So it's all for a really great cause. And also, if you don't have access to a pet or anything, it's a wonderful thing to do, and also to see whether you could cope with kittens, because they really have got their own, they really do their own thing. The expression herding cats is a reason for that expression. But the cuteness factor is off the charts. I was so tempted to take one of the kittens home, but I think Honey would have been really, really annoyed. It's really, really reasonable. It's I think I've got it on a Virgin experience. It's about 35 quid each. So it's a really lovely thing to do. So if you're thinking about getting a kitten, or you just want to see what it's like to sort of play with kittens, I've had my cats when they were sort of older, never experienced being with kittens before. It was just so, so wonderful. That's Kitty Yoga at the Tara Yoga Centre in London. And I'm going to be talking about the number one show on Netflix. Everybody is talking about the show, and it's Adolescence. Firstly, I'm surprised again and delighted that Netflix have picked up a show like this, but it was something I would have thought maybe would have been on the BBC or ITV, sort of in the wake of Mr. Bates versus the Post Office, which was hugely successful last year. But Netflix, again, they've just nailed it. They had Toxic Town viewing a few weeks ago, which was doing really well. Adolescence is off the charts. I mean, it's been talked about all over the world. Not just because of the acting, because the acting is just up. It's an acting masterclass from the cast, I have to say. But it's a subject matter that is so, so difficult and unfortunately incredibly relevant. So I don't even really know where to start. Stephen Graham, who co-wrote and stars, is one of our greatest acting talents. I mean, there is nothing this man can't do in terms of accents and emotion. And the emotion that he portrays as the father of the boy who commits the crime, Jamie, is... honestly, I've never seen anything like it. It was so moving, and I must admit, I don't often cry when I'm watching TV, but the subject matter, which is about young boys being radicalized online, and obviously you've got influencers like Andrew Tate who are, purporting that toxic masculinity is a good thing, and this boy Jamie in the show came from a really good family. So he wasn't your archetypal boy who didn't have a positive role model at all. But unfortunately, what happened is that he killed this girl, a schoolgirl, similar age to him, and basically, as I say, he'd been radicalized, and he was what they call an incel, so an involuntary celibate. And the detective who's trying to get to the bottom of it was trying to ascertain, how did this all happen? And everything's done online. And it's all about emojis and Snapchat and Instagram, and it's a world very different to anything that I know. And my boys grew up in the sort of the age of smartphones, but I never let them have a computer in their room or a television in their room. I just wanted to feel like we were still a family. We ate together, and I think it's a slippery slope just letting your kids go off and do what they want. And you can't control your kids. You really can't. I know that. I've had two very difficult errant teenage boys who've been difficult in many different ways, but this is something that can be avoided. But again, an acting masterclass from the boy who plays Jamie is an untrained actor, Owen Cooper. Stephen Graham discovered him in a workshop, and he wanted a boy who hadn't gone to drama school. He didn't have that sort of that polish that acting or drama school gives you. He wanted someone who was just a raw talent, and they've got this in this boy, and he's huge. He's going to be such a big star, and so you would never believe that this was his first acting role. So Owen Cooper plays Jamie, the 13-year-old boy who on the surface looks like he comes from a lovely home. He's got a lovely mum and dad, a lovely sister. And as I say, he kills this girl that he's at school with, and it all unfolds that he's an incel, and she had rejected him. But the fact is, that when he gets arrested, he lies to his dad when his dad is his appropriate adult when they're in the holding cell together, and his dad said, "Did you do it?" And he said, "No, I didn't do it. It wasn't me. And he's absolutely adamant. And at the beginning, you really, really believe it, because he's so convincing. And then they show the tape, they show the video of what actually happened, and it is just, it's gratuitous violence. I mean, there's no other way of putting it, And I think as a father watching your son commit this murder on screen and knowing that there's no coming back, there's no going away from this, that your 13-year-old boy has committed this offense that will destroy his life and your family's life forever, it's heartbreaking. Erin Doherty plays the psychologist, and she's an incredible actress as well. I'm watching her at the moment in A Thousand Blows, again with Stephen Graham, a phenomenal actress. She was in The Crown, very, very versatile. And I'll be very surprised if all three of them don't get some sort of a BAFTA or, a whole array of acting awards for this, because the portrayal is phenomenal. I can't really get across how much this show moved me, but how much it's moved so many people. But as the mum of boys, I think it resonates even more, because this could have happened to my boys, and you, as I say, you can't monitor every single second of your kids' lives, but I think it's up to us as parents to try and police what they watch, or make sure that we've got filters on their phones or what they're watching, because it happens so easily. It's happening all the time, and I don't know. I think the government need to do something. The large computer firms, it's all about algorithms and targeting these boys, particularly, it is boys generally, and I don't know whether we can put the genie back in the bottle, but this is such a powerful piece of drama, and I urge everyone, particularly if you're a parent of boys, I absolutely urge you to watch Adolescence. And the other thing I wanted to say about it, what's so remarkable, is it's filmed in one shot, and it's just, so it feels like there's no break. It's just, you're just so involved and so in the moment and so invested. It's the most extraordinary piece of drama I've seen on British television in a very, very long time. And I'm talking about doing my working with Waterstones, which I've never been able to say. I set myself this alliterative task because I love a bit of alliteration, and I've never managed to get it right, but I've got it right this time. It's only taken me about 6 weeks, so I don't know why I set myself these ridiculous tasks. Anyway, this book is utterly fabulous. The Rewrite by Lizzie Damola Blackburn, who's going to be my guest later on in the show. And it's her second book, which I've just completely fallen in love with her writing style as well. So the premise is Teme and Wale meet in London. They flirt, date, and get to know each other's friends. Then they break up, and Wale goes on a reality dating show. But instead of giving into heartbreak, Temi throws herself into her dream, which is writing. She's within touching distance of a book deal which could solve all her problems, but publishers keep passing on her novel, and bills have to be paid. So when the opportunity to ghostwrite a celebrity memoir arises, Temi accepts. Of course she does. And of course the celebrity turns out to be Wale. Will Teme and Wale repeat the patterns of their past, or can they rewrite a whole new story? Oh, this book, honestly, as I say, another fabulous novel from local author Lizzie Damola Blackburn, who, as I say, I'm going to be speaking to very soon. I adored her debut novel, Yinka, Where Is Your Husband? And I raced through the rewrite in about one sitting. And it really did made me laugh and cry. And I think for a book to do that is quite hard, actually, because we're so used to watching television and it's visual and we're bombarded with, as I say, it's easy. But with a book, you have to use your imagination. And she writes so expressively, and you really invest in her characters right from the get-go. And to me, that's a sign of a brilliant, brilliant writer. So her characters are both instantly likable. And again, I'd say, you have that emotional investment right from the get-go. I also love the fact that Temi is plus size and comfortable in her own skin. And to be honest, there's not much representation of plus size women, and even less of black women in sort of modern literature as well. And I just think it's such a powerful thing to be demonstrating. Her only flaw, Temi's only flaw, and she's so lovable, she really is that she overpromises and underdelivers to her agent and her manager. So I think she just wants to please. She's a people pleaser. But she's so lovely. But this ability to say, yes, I'll do that, and then think, oh, how the hell I'm going to manage that, is the thing that I think is her Achilles heel. But again, talking about Wale, there's even less positive representation of black men in the media. And whilst Wale is emotionally buttoned up, he's a good guy and trying to placate those around him. But again, it's so good to sort of have this positive reinforcement and sort of break down the stereotypes actually as well. It was very weird for me reading about this fictional reality show that he goes on, which is called The Villa, because my eldest son, he'll kill me if he's listening, but he won't. So he actually was scouted for Love Island 3 times, and the whole process is obviously it's a difficult process, and you have to go through a lot, and there is a lot of a lot of help in terms of they make sure that you're going to be mentored, and there's psychologists involved, etc. But fundamentally, you're being picked because of the way you look. So he went through this process 3 times, and then I think fundamentally they didn't choose him because I don't think he was going to give them enough drama. And these shows, they are all about drama. They are all about, clever editing. And, my boy is actually, even though he's extraordinarily good looking, if I say so myself, and obviously he is, otherwise he wouldn't have been scouted. He's not that person, and he wouldn't have given them that drama. And he's, he doesn't actually like the limelight. So I think it was a moment in time. I'm very glad that he didn't do it. I know he's glad he didn't do it because he's met the love of his life, Ella, now, and they're going to live sort of happily ever after. But sort of having been ensconced in that kind of world where you get callbacks and they want you to look a particular way, it's a toughie. So yeah, anyway, I'm digressing, but having sort of had a brief brush with that kind of reality thing, it was quite an interesting subject matter. But I won't spoil the ending of this lovely book. And being a ghostwriter can't be easy. And another, I do know of another author who was a ghostwriter. And again, that's not necessarily an easy task to do, because you're dealing with celebrities, and some of them, let's be honest, have very fragile egos. So I think Time handles it really well. But she's there's still feelings there, shall we say? I don't want to spoil it because I desperately want you to read this book. It is such a lovely book. Once again, Lizzie's portrayal of British Nigerians kind of living in the UK fascinates me. It's definitely tempting me to try some Nigerian food, and I'm so excited because I'm actually meeting my special guest. It's Lizzie Damola Blackburn, who's born and raised in London, is a British Nigerian writer who lives with her husband here in Milton Keynes. Her debut novel, Yinka, Where Is Your Husband, was a national bestseller, and The Rewrite is her second novel, and I am delighted to have you on my show, Lizzie.
Thank you for having me, Nancy.
Oh.
So excited to be here.
Oh, it's so lovely to meet you. It's so, because I've been following your career for the last couple of months now, and it's just so lovely to meet you in person. It's really, I'm trying not to fangirl too much, actually. So tell us about the inspiration for Yinka, because I loved it. That's obviously your first book,
Yes.
your debut novel, which I've never read anything like it. I loved it. Tell us about that, the inspiration for her.
So Yinka, Where's Your Husband? It's about a British Nigerian woman feeling the pressure to settle down by her Nigerian mum and her many, many aunties. And I was Yinka once. So in my early 20s, straight after I finished uni and got a full-time job, my mum was like, okay, where is this husband? Thankfully, she wasn't as bad as Yinka's mum. And so that inspired me to get back into writing, because I always loved writing when I was little. But then I kind of stopped when the internet came about and I had, distractions. And so, believe it or not, Yinka's story started off as a short story on a blog that I ran. And I went to this blogging workshop and I wanted to get some feedback on my writing. And I met this author and I shared the stories with her. And she really connected with Yinka, and she said, I feel like you should turn this story into a novel. And I took on a challenge quite blindly. I didn't know the magnitude of what it takes to write a novel. And I think for the first year and a half, I was basically winging it and just struggling, really. And it wasn't until I made a decision to commit to investing in myself, so, learn about the craft of writing. That's when the story started to evolve and my writing started to improve. And it took me, I think, 5 years later to finish Yinka. Probably even longer to get, an agent and a book deal. And the rest is history.
Gosh, so really, very, very tough. I think people think just write a book, or everyone can write a book. But, I've interviewed authors over the years, and it is not easy, and I think it's about, as you say, about honing your craft and learning to sort of understand the art and the discipline of writing. But I think they always say write about what you know, and obviously you've done that with her. She is your earlier self, isn't she? And I guess did that make it easier, or was it slightly painfully autobiographical?
So to answer the question, no, Yinka is not me. Sometimes I get people like call me Yinka as opposed to Lizzie. So even though like the inspiration was, inspired by what I went through, Yinka eventually told me her story, and I had to kind of like allow her to do it. So I think to begin with, like I said, like I was just trying to reach the end. And I thought, to write a novel just means like just kind of stretching out an idea. But actually, it's more than that. They have to go on a journey, and they have to go on a journey of growth and development as well. There has to be the characters too to complement the journey. Themes, I had to think about pacing. There were so many things I didn't think about when I first initially started writing Yinka. And yeah, like you said, until I started to invest in myself, that's when the story started to kind of like write itself, basically.
I'm fascinated by sort of the mind of an author, because, as I say, it does take tremendous discipline. And she did make me laugh out loud. And again, I think that's a real art to be able to read a book and actually where you're laughing out loud because you just think, I can sort of visualize the pressure, of this whole getting, wanting to get married and not eating the right food. And, she's trying to make her bum bigger and all that sort of thing. And, here in Western culture, we're always trying to have smaller bums, and it's just, I just find the whole Nigerian aspect really, really fascinating. As a white African, as a Zimbabwean who came to London when I was in my 20s, again, culturally, I just find London so utterly bewildering, and the whole dating thing as well. Again, British guys were just, oh my God, it was just anathema to me. I just did not know how to handle it, and I felt very much out of my depth. So a lot of what you said about it about Yinka's journey did sort of resonate actually, and she's so likable. She really, really is likable, and obviously you met your husband, so has it taken the pressure off you from your mum and all the aunties, has it?
Yes, in the midst of writing Yinka, I met my husband. We met online. It's funny because I nearly didn't click on his profile because he had a photo of himself when he was 19, and so he looks really young. But thankfully I did, and I think the first message I sent him was, on your profile I read that you like to cook. What is your speciality? And we just hit it off. And yeah, we got married as well during the time when I wrote Yinka. So much happened. And I think that's what contributed to it, taking as long as it did. And that time as well, I was working full time. I moved to Milton Keynes and then had to travel 2 hours to get to work. So sometimes I even had to write during my lunchtime and on the train to work as well.
Gosh, that's I can see now. When you said 5 years, I mean, you do hear about novels taking this long actually, but now that you say it like that, you were busy, full-time job. And again, it's a discipline. Everyone's tired when they've worked and then coming out to have to write. And then you're obviously planning a wedding, getting married, and then moving. I mean, that's an awful lot. And then culturally, Milton Keynes is very different to London as well. So, I guess I see now why that took so long. But my God, it was worth the wait. So, yes. I can't wait to find a little bit more about the rewrite. So this book is fabulous. And I said I did a little review earlier about sort of Teme and Wole's journey and all the whole inspiration. And obviously he goes on a dating show, which is a reality dating show, which is pretty much Love Island, isn't it?
Yeah.
But where did you get your inspiration from for the whole book? Because I mean, I loved it, and it was such an unusual concept as well.
So Temi is a British Nigerian writer, but she's a struggling writer. And I was Temi. So basically, I really struggled to write my second book. And I went through what's called second book syndrome. I think after the success of Yinka, I just felt a lot of pressure and it crippled me. And so during that time, I was procrastinating a lot. And so that meant I was watching Love Island a lot.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I had a brainwave I think at 3 a.m. in the morning because I was really struggling to come up with a new concept, a new world, a new idea for my second book. And I woke up and I was like, I wonder if what would I do if my my boyfriend broke up with me to go on a dating show. And then when he came back, he became this big star and I had to work with him. And that's how the idea kind of grew. And I shared it with my team. They loved it. It was actually my agent who came up with the ghostwriting element. And then I just had to write it.
And therein lies the pressure.
Yes.
I think it's such a wonderful idea. And I mean, thank God for insomnia, because sometimes the best ideas come to us at 3 a.m. I wouldn't wish that on anybody, but, and you've got a child as well. So you've probably done a bit of sleep deprivation in your time as well, but I think, if one can utilize that time wisely in the middle of the night and, jot down ideas. But I think that is, I've never come across anything like this before, and I'm such a big reader, and I think I as I say, the Love Island thing really resonated because, as I say, my son had been scouted for Love Island, but again, their journey and the ghostwriting thing. I've interviewed authors before who've been ghostwriters, and that can be a challenge because, let's be honest, celebrities aren't always easy. We've got little, got celebrity egos which are quite fragile that need to be stroked a lot. But I think it's absolutely wonderful. But you've been very sort of honest and open about the fact that it was like second album syndrome. Musicians get it as well, and it's weird. I mean, it's not quite the same thing, and I'm not putting myself in your category, but I had it with my show as well.
Okay.
So the first show, I hadn't been on air for 4 years. I had COVID and lockdown and all that sort of thing. So I came back and I was really excited to get back on air, and I smashed the first show. I absolutely loved it, and I was properly buzzing, and I bumped into some friends after. I was like, oh my God, I just feel like I'm in my rightful place, and and then the next week, oh my goodness me. And interestingly, the topic that we were talking about with my guest that week was anxiety, and I felt like it was a self-fulfilling prophecy because I had a full-blown panic attack, anxiety, and I'm not a particularly anxious person, but I had a full-on anxiety attack in the studio. Thank God it wasn't live, because I had to take off my headphones, just say I can't do this, and I'd not long had a breakup from my fiance, so things were quite raw, and I don't think I'd processed it. But that again, it was that imposter syndrome. It's like I had such a great the first one went so well, and now, oh my God, can I really do this? So
and you start to wonder, like, am I a fluke? Like, am I a one-trick pony? And I even started to question myself, like, oh, maybe I was only meant to write one book, like, and I had a 2-book deal. I was even thinking, do I need to have a conversation with my team and say, here's your advance back, I'm so sorry I can't write the second book. It actually got to that point where it was affecting my mental health, because I just couldn't write.
Proper writer's block.
Proper writer's block. And also, because I've been writing Yinka for such a long time, her voice was so loud in my head, and I just couldn't shrug it off. I wasn't too sure whether I was able to write in a different voice but still kind of have my voice as well at the same time. It was. I could definitely relate to what you're saying. Yeah, it's just so crippling.
And I think as women as well, the imposter syndrome is I'm not saying men don't suffer from imposter syndrome, but I think talking to women who are successful, who are sort of in the public eye, a lot of women do say that they feel they suffer from imposter syndrome. So I get where you're coming from in terms of, just like you wrote this blinding debut novel, and you got the pressure to deliver, and again finding the voice, because Yinka's voice was unmistakable. It was just I mean, even though I read it a good couple of months ago, I can still picture her. I can still hear her in my head. So to then read something like this, completely different, but actually this is still unmistakably you, and it's wonderful, and it's similar, but it's so different. So I think you've scored an absolute blinder there. It's just wonderful, and I'm so happy that you've managed to get over that hurdle, and you've not given up, because I guess, as you say, you probably thought, well, I need to give my advance back, because I can't do this, and thank God you didn't give up.
I know, thank God.
I'm guessing you had a lot of support from your team and your husband and your family, though, because you do dedicate a lot to them.
Yeah, they were amazing, because when I was writing the rewrite, I fell pregnant, and then my son came along, and so the rewrite was actually supposed to be published last year, but because of that, we had to push things forward, and they were incredibly supportive as well. They gave me the time that I needed, so they would ask me, okay, you set the deadline. You tell us,
wow.
Yeah, I know.
That doesn't happen very often. Right? They must love you and know that you were going to score a second blinding novel.
But also because I had my son as well, so and they could definitely. A few of them are mothers as well. They could relate. But I only had, I think, maybe 3 months of maternity leave before I had to dip my toe back into writing again. And my son is, he was a Velcro baby. He just couldn't sleep independently. So I literally rewrote the rewrites in the early hours while I was breastfeeding and cradling my son. Which is why I dedicated it to him, because I feel like we literally wrote the book together.
Oh, that's so lovely. How old is he now?
He's 1 now. Yeah,
he's
18 months.
He's a baby still. Oh my God, you literally are Superwoman. I mean, you in 5-6 years, you've written 2 best-selling novels, you've moved house, you've got married, and you've had a baby. Honestly, you are the original Superwoman. I'm absolutely in awe.
Oh.
And we are talking about motherhood and sleep deprivation. Actually, I know it's slightly off topic, but as sleep deprivation is a thing, isn't it?
Yes.
It really is. I remember with my second, who's now 25, he just wouldn't sleep. Just 7 years. Wouldn't sleep through the night. 7 years. So I don't want to put you off or anything, but I mean, the thing is, when they're teenagers, you can't get them out of bed. So you're swapping sort of. It is lovely. Being a mum is being a parent is the most wonderful thing in the world. But my God, it's exhausting. And the fact that you've managed to do all the things that you've done is just hats off to you. But the thing is, we do this stuff as women. We do it. We can make babies, we can run a home, we can have a job, but it's hard, and the guilt, I think, is really hard. As a working mother, I was running my own business as a stylist when my kids were very little, and I loved it, and it was great because I had the flexibility to to go to all the sort of parents' evenings and nativity, and I was a single parent. But still the guilt is there because it's like, oh, just 1 minute, I'm just and this is before social media, this is before phones and things. My kids are sort of, as I say, 25 and 28, so that wasn't a thing then. But again, that sort of whole juggling, the constant juggling, and feeling like you're sort of not palming them off, but just sort of saying, in a minute, sweetie, I'll come back to you. It's tough, isn't it?
It is, yeah. So my in-laws, they live in Northampton, which I'm very grateful for. So they offered to look after my son, during the day when so I could work on my second book. But I just felt I just know, like you said, I felt guilty. And I said, it's okay. Okay, when I desperately needed help, maybe when my deadline is literally, around the corner, then yes. But I just felt like, my son's only going to be small once, and I just wanted to be with him every second of the day. And so that's why I decided to do it in the early hours, because I was going to be awake anyway. So I might as well just, do some writing then.
Yeah, it makes sense, sort of utilising your time. But again, that guilt, the guilt doesn't ever go away. I mean, as I said, my boys are grown up, and I still feel guilty even when they're at home, and they've got their own lives. I need them way more than they need me, and it's kind of letting go. I mean, that in itself is a whole thing that I'm just sort of trying to come to terms with. Is the sort of letting go, the sort of emptiness. That's the whole thing. I mean, you and Chris, obviously, you've got your babies, and you've got a long way to go, and it is so precious, as you say. Even though it's exhausting, and you think, oh my God, I'm never going to sleep again. It is so wonderful, and it's wonderful that you managed to crack out this blinder of a novel. I mean, I'm in awe. So tell me, obviously, the third novel. This is obviously something that because you had your 2-book deal. So yes. I guess they've commissioned you for a third, have they? So
I need to write the third one first.
Okay.
So I'm working on it at the moment. Having a much better time, thank God. I feel like I had to go through what I went through with the second book, because now I know that writer's block is part of the journey, and if it happens, I know at some point I will get over it. But I can't say too much about it. But it will be similar to Yinka and the rewrites, where you have a cast of colourful, eccentric characters. I didn't touch too much on Nigerian culture in the second book, but there'll be more of that in the third one. And of course, it'll be set in South London, because that's my roots, my hometown. And there might even be an Easter egg. There might be a cameo from someone in the previous books as well.
Yes, I've heard about this Easter egg thing. Explain to those who don't know what this whole Easter egg thing is.
Yeah, it's just kind of like having cameos, so having characters appear in later books, so that the reader can kind of find out a bit about them and where they're at in their journey. And for me, it's a kind of like an alternative of doing a sequel. So it keeps the readers happy, keeps them surprised as well, and they get to find out, where they are, the characters are at in life.
That's such a good idea, actually, because you do always sort of want, not always, because some books you put them down, you never think about them again. But I wonder what's happened to Yinka, and I wonder, obviously I don't want to spoil it, but what happens, with the happy ever after, what happens after that. So that I think that's such a good idea that you've kind of got that nod to it. And as you say, it precludes the need for writing a sequel, which I think in itself must be quite a difficult thing to do. But, as I say, you've got that continuity, because these characters become so beloved, don't they?
Yeah, and they're part of the same world as well. They're all from South London, so it's not but a stretch of imagination that they'll cross paths. So
yeah, I guess so. Small community. And so do you miss London? Because I know Milton Keynes is obviously very different. And why Milton Keynes? I'm fascinated by the move.
So I love Milton Keynes. I don't see myself moving back to London, even though I have my family's there. I just love how just like green it is, and it's a great place to raise, a family. And I think that's why we moved here. And also, my husband's parents live in Northampton, so it's a 45-minute drive away. So they're really handy when it comes to babysitting, which they love to do because they're retired. And, to get to London, the fast train is, I think, half an hour. So
on a good day.
On a good day, yes.
Sometimes you have to stand, which is not so much fun, but yes,
Yeah. And I actually like going into London for a reason, like whether it's, for, I don't know, to see friends or to go out to eat. It makes it more exciting. I don't know if you get that as well.
I'm totally with you. Having lived in London for 12 years, I have no desire to move back. I love going to London. I love, exploring, going for a meal, or generally it's to the theatre because I'm theatre obsessive. Went to kitty yoga a couple of weeks ago. I was playing with kittens. It was the cutest thing ever. Oh my god, it was so cute. So the going in, and it is sort of a day out or a night out, but then I'm always glad to come home to Milton Keynes. This is my home, and I think Milton Keynes much maligned, but it was a great place for my boys to be brought up. There was so much opportunity for them, and there's so much to do. As you say, it's incredibly green. You've got parks and the redways, and I think if you lived in Milton Keynes a while, it does become it does end up having a special place in your heart. But I think if people who've never been here before, they're like, oh, Milton Keynes, concrete cars and roundabouts. I'm like, that's so boring. Please come up with something a bit more original. And London is great, and South London is so vibrant. And I lived all over London, and when I left, I was living in West London. And as I said, like you, no desire to go back at all. And this feels like home now, and it is a great place. It really, really is. So convenient as well.
Yeah. Someone had asked me, 'cause I did an event at Waterstones in Milton Keynes, whether I would set one of my stories in Milton Keynes in the future, and it just never occurred to me to do that. I've always just thought, South London. But yeah, we'll see.
It was interesting because that actually was going to be one of my next questions. So we'll hold that thought. Menopausal brain needs to go on hold for that. Welcome back to the Nancy Stevens Lifestyle Show here on the New Horizon, where I'm talking to Lizzie Damola Blackburn. I don't know why I need to keep looking at your book because I know who you are. You're sitting right there. I'm menopausal, honestly. I have the memory of a goldfish. Finding Nemo, was it Dorian Finding Nemo has got nothing on me. I think I keep saying I'm going to retitle my podcast. What was I saying? Because honestly, it's a shocker. And what was I saying? We were talking before the break about maybe setting your next book or part of your next book in Milton Keynes, which I know seems a bit random, but you'd get all the Milton Keynes readers on side, I suppose.
Yeah.
But I'd sort of think, how would we shoehorn that in? Actually, maybe come for a date or something.
Yeah, I think there's quite a few places that I could pick, like the indoor skydiving, and then what else is there?
There's a skiing.
Skiing, yeah.
My boys learnt to ski on the at Escape, and they both had much more privileged childhood than I did. They've been skiing and snowboarding abroad. So there's a lot to do, and as you say, for random dates, that's quite a good one though. But no, I'm excited to sort of see how when the third novel comes out. Do you have a deadline? Have you been given a deadline, or have they just said take your time?
Yeah, pretty much.
How lovely!
Whenever, yeah.
They sound lovely. They sound very chill.
Yeah.
Gosh, that doesn't sound like a lot of publishers, because a lot of people are generally on some sort of deadline, and that's great that as you say, a lot of them are working mothers, so they appreciate the fact that you're having to sort of juggle, and and as you said, this time with your little boy is so precious, because I know it's such a cliche, but it does go so quickly, and I would give my eye teeth to go back to when they were little, because I was so exhausted. I didn't really appreciate it. Now they're big and they don't really need me. I think I would love to go back to that when they need you and you sit and give them their milk and have story time and bedtime and sing to them. I love that. I think the next thing is to be a grandmother, though. That's the next thing. They're like, Mum, just calm down. Not yet. So your day, how does your day look apart from sort of looking after your boy? You're having to be super disciplined now.
Yes. I feel like I'm more of a full-time mom than a full-time writer, to be honest with you. I tend to be like more creative, like in the early hours, or sometimes like around like 5, 6. So I'll probably wake up around then. Thank God my son can sleep up to 9, 10.
So he's sleeping better now.
Yes,
Thank
yeah.
God for that.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, you're looking very rested for a new mum, actually.
Yeah. Blackout blinds are like godsends. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And white noise. Yeah. So yeah, I tend to write in like a few hours before I get him up. And then I have a nap in the afternoon, like just taking care of a toddler just really wears me down so that I can have the energy to write in the evening. So it's all about kind of like working around my energy levels now, and trying to maximize the time that I do have, because I just know that, you know, it's precious now, and he can wake up at any time or need me at any time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess it's, as you say, it's optimizing that time. And, you know, you're doing all the right things, sleeping when he's sleeping, you know, and it is quite hard to do that, because, you know, you do think, oh, they're going to wake up, and can I, you know, you put your head down, then 5 minutes later, it's, wow, mummy, you know, and you're like, oh, so, you know, but it sounds like you've kind of got, you know, for the third time now, it sounds like you've got a good balance now, and in a good place.
Yeah, like I now I know that I have to kind of like take care of myself, because I can't write a book if I'm tired and exhausted. So before I used to feel quite guilty when I used to nap during his 2-hour afternoon nap. But actually, I'm like, if I need it, I need to just kind of like have, I don't know, 20 minutes, half an hour. And if it's going to help me have the energy to write in the evening, then it's worth it. So yeah, I just try to like take care of my well-being.
Absolutely, it's so important taking time up for yourself. And in terms of sort of, you know, what's your format? You know, are you sort of old school typewriter, or are you proper sort of like modern PC?
Yeah, so I got my laptop. I don't really use post-it notes. I feel like my process has changed for every book. So at the moment, I'm just using like a notebook to write like notes and stuff. And then I have this Word document, which is like my brain dump. So I just kind of like put, ideas, maybe like scene ideas, or things that I know that I need to kind of include, or maybe I've missed out in an earlier chapter. So I know that I need to kind of like include that when I edit it. I just put all of that, in there.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And the other thing I was going to say is, this book, The Rewrite, is begging to be made into a movie or TV series. I just think it's such a contemporary setting and such lovable characters. Is there something that is maybe going to happen?
I hope so. So I've got a TV agent, and I know that she has she sent it out to a few, like, I guess, production companies. So I think we're just waiting to hear back. So fingers crossed.
It's exciting. And another thing that I loved was the representation of plus size women, because that doesn't happen often enough, and black women, but particularly black men, and, you know, not enough positive role models in terms of, we've just watched Adolescence. I don't know if you've watched Adolescence, but
amazing.
You know, as a boy mum, it's been a real eye opener. But, you know, to see someone like Wale, who is such a wonderful, good person, and, you know, to bust those myths and those stereotypes, I think it's, you know, that the positive reinforcement has been really powerful for me to read, actually. What sort of feedback have you had about that?
Oh, do you know what? It's been amazing, like, especially like getting feedback from black men. In fact, this morning I had a DM from a black guy saying that he read it and he just loved like how I, you know, portrayed vulnerability as well, and also the whole importance of not feeling you have to be kind of strong all the time. And actually, you know, when you do become vulnerable and share your emotions, you actually show strength by doing that. So that was like really kind of like touching, because part of my mission was to, you know, shine a spotlight on black men and show that, you know, it's okay to be vulnerable, and you don't have to kind of like play to these, you know, stereotypes that have been put on you. So it's been so kind of like humbling to see that it's resonated. And then going back to a point about, you know, plus size women, I was very determined when I wrote Temi's character to make sure that didn't become her storyline, because I find sometimes with like rom-coms with plus size characters, they kind of go on a journey of like loving themselves. But with Temi, she's very confident in her skin, and she finds it weird that society thinks that she's undesirable because, you know, she's curvy and plus size. And even Wale, he never once mentions her weight, because he sees her for who she is, which is a beautiful woman. So that was really important for me to do, because I wanted to just like normalize, you know, different sizes, you know, different I guess, different shapes and different standards of beauty as well. Yeah.
And it's true. And I think, I mean, I've been in relationships where when I've put on weight, my partner's been less than pleased about it. And it was so refreshing to actually see that, and it shouldn't be an issue. I mean, we shouldn't really even be talking about it, but, it is really positive to see that. But also, I think, my mind is I'm so menopausal today. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
Yes, so the African culture, so that the way that sort of African men are sort of brought up to be so strong and independent, and as you said, not show any vulnerability, or any weakness. It's not acceptable. It's not socially acceptable. So it makes Wale so much more appealing because he is so vulnerable and he's such a kind, caring person. And I think it's a super, super powerful message. It's amazing. We've been talking all things books, and we've had such a lovely chat. It's gone so quickly, hasn't it? So tell me, what advice would you give to aspiring writers? Because you have really gone on a journey, and I think you're best placed to answer this question.
Oh, thank you. I would say, first of all, ditch the word aspiring. If you're writing, then then you're a writer, full stop. I'd also say invest in yourself as well. I felt like that made a huge difference to my writing journey. And you don't have to spend money. Like, the internet is your oyster. There's so many amazing resources out there. Read books on storytelling and story crafting. There's a really, really good one called Story Engineering by Larry Brooks, which I always recommend. Also Save the Cat as well. I can't remember the author's name. YouTube as well. Articles, even sign up to newsletters. So if you don't have time to be searching for tips and advice on writing, if you sign up to newsletters, it's a great way for you to receive it without even having to go looking for it. And surround yourself with other writers as well too, if you can. And just keep going. And also know that if you do go through writer's block, or if you're struggling, every writer goes through that, even the best-selling, most established writer. And it's not a sign that you're not supposed to be writing. If anything, it's evidence that you are a writer, because it's part of the process.
So the struggle is real. And who, on your journey, who kind of who inspired you? Who are your sort of role models in terms of, literary inspiration?
Yeah, I think it's varied over the years. I think before I would say Zada Smith, she's still amazing. But now I would say other rom-com writers as well. So Beth O'Leary, she's amazing. I love her voice. Bolu Babalola, she's an amazing Black British romance author. Tia Williams, just so many, really.
And did you notice, because when obviously when I was reading Yinka, obviously she was I sort of saw her as a Black Bridget Jones. Did you notice a peak in sort of sales when the movie came out? Because there was a lot of common factors there.
Oh, do you know what? I don't know too much about the sales. I don't ask my team.
Yeah.
I just focus on the writing.
Okay, that's fair enough. Yeah, leave the figures to other people. Yeah. But you're right. As I say, just this is what every author says. Just keep going. But I think your phrase aspiring is good. Get rid of that, because you say if you're doing it, you're doing it.
Yeah.
You're a writer. What makes someone, what's the difference between aspiring and aspiring means that you're trying, and then it means almost kind of like you're setting yourself to fail. Because if you say, I'm a writer, I'm going to manifest this, I'm going to do it, I'm going to make it happen,
exactly.
then that's really, really great advice, really, really positive advice.
Yeah. And it's actually, what Wale told Temi as well. You're a writer, full stop. So yeah, claim it.
I'm a little bit in love with him. He's just, I wish there were more men like him. He's just so caring and so sensitive. You've created some beautiful characters in both novels, and I cannot wait to see what happens for the third. It's been so lovely to meet you, Lizzie.
Likewise. Thanks so much for having me. I've had so much fun.
No, it's been great. So how can people get hold of you?
So the best place is probably Instagram. So my handle is at Lizzie Damola Blackburn. And I'm occasionally on X. So that's at Damola Lizzie. Yes.
Okay, fabulous. And obviously I'll share this as well. And we just keep spreading the love of your wonderful, wonderful books, because I say the rewrite and Yinka, they both deserve to be read over and over again. And I say and I don't actually read books more than once, but I think I would revisit, and that's I feel very privileged to have met you. You're so inspirational, great a great writer. Really,
thank
really
you.
enjoyed.
That was a lot.
Oh, thank you. So yeah, I've loved the show as always. If you'd like to be a guest on my show, contact me at _NancyMK_ on Instagram. That's the best way to find me. Drop me a DM. I will respond as long as it's a reasonable request. It's been a great show. Thank you so much to Lizzie, and I hope that you've enjoyed the show. And I will see you next week. Chris is looking puzzled. Sorry, I'm going to stop.